Hi everyone, and welcome to the live UCL Fantasy Matchweek 2 stream. Not long until deadline. It's just myself tonight, FPLMattDay, and I'm going to take all of you through match week 2. I can't wait for it. We obviously had a huge match week 1, lots of points, lots happened, and obviously we've not had any Premier League games over the weekend, so it's nice to have some football on. I know we had the overseas leagues, but for those that support English clubs, it's good to have some football with the English clubs. So just before we start the stream, if you could please just like the video, give the video a comment and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done that, would be awesome. And then just follow myself on all the social media. It's all FPL Matt Day. You can see that in the channel description. And tonight we'll aim for 20 likes on this video, see if we can get that, and make sure you turn on the notifications so you never miss a video. Lots of content coming up this week as well, especially if the Premier League is back. But for now, all the focus is on the Champions League. So what we'll do tonight, I'll bring up the results from the last round. I will go through the fixtures for this week, and then I'll pick a player from each fixture that I think is good to play. We'll also go through a differential and a captain for each night. And then we'll also talk about whether or not it's worth playing the Limitless. And then if we get any questions in during the stream, I'll bring them all up at the end as well, and we can do a bit of a Q&A. So yeah, just before we get into it and share the results, I'll just bring up a couple of comments that have come in early so far. We've got Quinton Dunn, FPL Amateurs of Oz, in the stream. Thanks for coming into the stream, mate. Obviously, I know you were trying to comment last week, but a lot of the comments weren't working because I had the settings wrong. So if you do have questions this week, you can get them all in and we will take the Q&A at the end. Welcome to the stream, mate. I think this is FPLI's Stephen McDonald. He was on our watch along last week. So welcome to the stream, mate. Good to have you in. I'm sure you're looking forward to watching Man City in the champs this week. And we've had a couple of questions already come in. I'll actually take this one. I'll take that one at the end. Stephen's asked a question, and Q has asked. I think Q's answered it in the comments anyway, just about the Limitless. So we will talk about the Limitless towards the end of the stream and whether or not we think the Limitless is good to play this week. But just before we do, let's quickly share last week's results. We had a comment here. Haaland, the robot, with a hat trick this week. Wouldn't put it past me. He's playing Dortmund, which is obviously his old club. And City creates so many chances. So yeah, it's going to be a really good game. Let's quickly share screen. Let's go through the results from match week 1, the opening match week. Let's bring them up. So we'll quickly bring these up, and then we'll go into this week's fixtures, and then we'll pick a player from each game. So we had Dynamo Zagreb versus Chelsea 1-0, which ended up being the end of Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea career. I think there was a bit of a shock defeat in the end. Zagreb were deserved winners overall. And then we had Salzburg versus Milan in that group as well, 1-1. Leipzig got absolutely hammered by Shakhtar, 4-1. I don't think anyone really expected that one. Paris beating Juve 2-1, the late clean sheet wipeout from Juve. I know that disappointed quite a few managers. Dortmund winning 3-0, quite comfortable against Copenhagen, which I think we all expected. That was one of the first games on, along with the Dynamo Zagreb and Chelsea game. A lot of those that owned Guerrero for 4.5 million were absolutely loving life because he got such a good score. He got a goal, clean sheet, and some ball recoveries. Celtic 0, Real Madrid 3. Real Madrid ended up winning quite comfortably in the end, despite the early injury to Benzema. Seville 0, Man City 4. It was just all one-way traffic in that game. Haaland with a couple of goals. But what surprised us all was De Bruyne ended up getting the 3 points, bonus points, which we all didn't expect. And then we had Benfica 2, Maccabi Haifa 0. Those people that own Grimaldo will be absolutely over the moon because he got a huge score. I think it was 20 points. And then the other games, we had Ajax 4, Rangers 0. Quite a one-sided game there. Frankfurt 0, Sporting 3. Another one-sided game. Another one-sided game, which we didn't expect. Napoli 4, Liverpool 1. I don't think many of us expected that one. And then we had Atletico 2, Porto 1. So it was the late clean sheet wipeout there, which I think caught a lot of us by surprise. I know a lot of us had Atletico Madrid defenders and goalkeepers. And we had Club Rouge 1, Leverkusen 0. Those that owned Simon Mignolet, he was one of the tips last week on the pod, got a clean sheet and a save point. And then Barcelona 5, Pilsen 1. Lewandowski running absolute riot as usual in the Champions League with a hat-trick. I know he saved a lot of people's teams on that second day. And then we had Bayern Munich winning 2-0 at Inter. Leroy Sané grabbing a goal, which we've seen him do plenty of times in UCL Fantasy. And then we had Tottenham 2, Marseille 0. I was happy with that result. And Richarlison with a double on his Champions League debut. So a really, really good performance by him. So that's the results for the first match week. So let's move on to this week's fixtures. So I'm going to pull up group stage, match day 2. And what I'll do is I'll go through each fixture and then I'll pick a player from each fixture who I think will be good for this game. And if you've got any other players you think could be good, then let me know in the comments. Just let me know if there's someone you think's a better pick or someone you have in your team. And I'll just go through each fixture, pick one player, and then we'll move on to the captains. Welcome to the stream, and 17. He's just come in and asked, guys, what do you think about results? FC Bayern Munich versus Barcelona. Get your thoughts in the comments. For those watching, let us know what you think the score is going to be in the comments. But I think it's going to be a tough game for Bayern Munich. Barca have definitely improved this season. They're the ones with Lewandowski now as well, and not Bayern Munich. So I actually think it's going to be quite a tricky game for Bayern at home. I'm going to go with a 2-2. I think we'll see goals. Oh, there you go. And we've just had another comment from Quentin Dunn, who's coming in and said 2-2 as well. So I think it's going to be 2-2 in that one as well. Get your scores in the comments. We've had another one, FPL Penguin as well. He's come in and he said 2-2. So we've got a 2-2 from myself. We've got a 2-2 from Quentin Dunn from FPL Amateurs. And we've got a 2-2 from FPL Penguin. So 2-2s all round in that one. So it looks like it's going to be 2-2. So look, let's move on to the fixtures. Let's start with the opening fixtures. I just had a comment here from Penguin as well. So she's coming, playing his Limitless this week. We're actually going to talk about the Limitless at the end of the stream. So that's a really good comment in line with tonight's topic. 112 points last week. That is huge. So very good opening week for you. I actually only got 79 points in the end. So I didn't have the worst start. I didn't have the best start. I think hitting 100 points would have been nice. If I changed the captain to Lewandowski on the second night, I would have come in at about 96 points. So, that would have been nice, but I didn't. I stayed safe. But look, we'll see how this week goes. Let's go on to the first fixture, which is one of the early games there. So we've got Pilsen versus Inter Milan. So this one, you probably expect Inter Milan to win this one quite comfortably. Pilsen lost 5-1 last week to Barca, but obviously it was at the Nou Camp. Inter lost to Bayern. I'm going to back Inter Milan. I think they'll win this one. And I'm going to say the player to pick from this fixture is Martinez, Loreto Martinez, the forward. I think he's the one. If you're on a Limitless, if you're on a wild card, he's the one you've got to get in. I think he is the player pick. We have just had a comment come in from Quentin Dunn. He thinks upset alert 1-1. So he thinks there may be an upset. I'm going to go Inter for the win. And I'm going to pick Martinez as my pick from that game. We'll go on to Sporting Lisbon versus Spurs. It's going to be a very tough game away in Portugal. Lisbon won their first game. The advantage for the English teams at the moment, though, is they did get a rest on the weekend. Usually with the English teams, they do play on that weekend. It's always a high, intense game in the Premier League, but there was no games. So it could benefit the English clubs, especially those that have to travel away. It's a tough one to pick. I like to think that we can end up winning this game. So I will go with 2-1 to Spurs. I'm going to pick Harry Kane as the man for this one because I think if you're on a wild card or a Limitless, he's really worth getting for this. I think he's really going to want his first Champions League goals of the season. So I think Kane is a really, really good pick for this one. So I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs and Harry Kane as my Tottenham pick from this. A couple of comments. We had another one from FPLMattDay, Quentin. Spurs 1-0, and he thinks Son will get off the mark. So, yeah, look, I think this is a great game for Son to get off the mark, away from home, playing on the counter-attack. These are the games Son absolutely loves. Let's go on to... we won't do Rangers-Napoli because that got moved to the day after, so we'll do Rangers-Napoli a bit later on. We'll go to Porto versus Bruges. This one, I think Porto, I think it's going to be a tough game for Porto, but I think they'll edge it 1-0. I'm going to pick Pepe, the midfielder from Porto, as the one to watch. I think he could be a good pick for this one. So I'm going to go Porto to win this one, 1 or 2-0, with Pepe as my pick from Porto. If there's any Porto fans listening to the stream, get yourself in the comments. Any Bruges fans that know a bit more about these sides, then yeah, get your comments in. But I'm going to pick Pepe as my player from Porto. I think Porto will win that one with a clean sheet. Quentin Dunn's come in and said Porto 2-0. Yeah, get your score predictions in, get your player picks. Let us know who you think is going to do well. Yeah, I agree with that one as well. I think Porto will come out with a clean sheet as well. Liverpool Ajax. Now, this is a very, very interesting game. You know, at Anfield, under the lights, they love Champions League nights. This is the comp that, you know, Liverpool relish, but so do Ajax. They've been brilliant in Europe, you know, throughout their history, throughout the last few years. Won 4-0 last week. Liverpool lost 4-1. Again, though, it was a rest for English teams. You know, Liverpool got some players back. They've got some injuries back. I'm going to say my pick for this is going to be Luis Diaz. I think this is a really good game for Diaz. The thing about Ajax is they will always play football. They will always play with the ball, which is great to watch, but they will always leave you open for chances. And I can see this being a bit of a goal feast. I'm going to say 3-2. I've actually just had a comment come in with the same score. So I'll bring it up in a second. But me and Quentin Dunn seem to be thinking of the same scores tonight. So I'm going to go 3-2 as well. I think it could go either way. You know, I think it could go either way. The confidence doesn't seem to be there for Liverpool at the moment. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go 3-2 Ajax, which is a big call, especially at Anfield. But I'm still going to pick Luis Diaz as my man. I'll just go against the grain for something a bit different. Quinton's come in and said Liverpool 3-2 and Salah to get the double. So he's back in Salah to come back into form in this one. I'm going to pick 3-2 Ajax, and I'm going to pick Luis Diaz as the man. I think he'll be involved in the goals. We'll go on to Leverkusen versus Atletico. I've gone with De Paul from Atletico, the Argentinian midfielder, as my pick for this one. I think he's the player to watch. Loves to get forward, loves ball recoveries, and I think Atletico will grind this one out 1-0, and I think De Paul will get himself on the score sheet. So I'm going to go 1-0 Atletico Madrid at Leverkusen. Let's go to another German side. We'll go with Bayern Munich against Barcelona. This is the big game of the game week. It's huge. They've had some absolute classics in the Champions League. We've all predicted our scores earlier on in the pod, but let's do it again. I'm going to say 2-2, which we had 3 people come into the stream and say they think it's going to be 2-2. So yeah, I'll go 2-2, and I'll go. I'd like to say Lewandowski as the pick because he's going back to his old club. I'm actually going to pick Sane. I think at home, Leroy Sane loves the Champions League, scored in the last match week. So I'm going to back Leroy Sane as my man to have from this fixture. So I'm going to go 2-2 in this game. Still think Lewandowski will do well, but if I'm going to pick a player for the fixture, it is going to be Leroy Sane. So what we'll do, we'll start the games from the next day now. Actually, we got Marseille versus Frankfurt as well. Sorry, just to cover off there. So let's do Marseille versus Frankfurt. This one, you know what? Marseille have had a good season. They were very good against Spurs last week. Very solid at the back. The likes of Tavares, really good. Pau Lopez in goal. You know, and they look really good. And I believe they've not lost yet in the French league. Frankfurt seems to be a bit all over the place at the moment. Haven't been winning games. They lost 3-0 in their opening match. So I want to pick Marseille on this one. I think they're going to win 1-0. And I'm going to pick the left fullback, Klaus, as my pick. So he got 7 points last week. He did get a late book in and got subbed off. So he did end up losing out on maybe some more, ball recoveries and some extra points. But he is the one to look at the moment. He's got some really, really good stats for Marseille. He was also at Lens in a previous season. He was really, really good. And the thing about Klaus as well, is he's on the ball so much, he could be really good for the 3 bonus points too. So he's definitely one to watch. We've had a couple of comments in just before. Quinton Dunn, 2-0 at Atletico Madrid against Leverkusen was his prediction. 2-2 with Fati to shine for Barcelona. And then 0-0 in the Marseille game. And he thinks a clean sheet for Tavares, get him in. So Tavares is 4 million. So it's a really good call. He's getting forward and he's also got the ball recoveries. If you are new to the stream, just remember to just give the channel a subscribe, like the video, and get your comments in as well. It'll be good to get some questions in for the end of the stream, and stay interactive throughout. Let us know your scores, let us know your picks, and let's move on to the second night of games. So that's all of the first night of games, which does open with Pilsen versus Inter and Sporting versus Spurs as the early kickoffs. So remember, you can change your team all the way up until deadline, so you will get team news. So let's go on to the games the next night. I will say Chelsea versus Salzburg could be up in the air at the moment because we don't know, obviously, what's happening with the passing away of the Queen and the game being in London. So that one is a little bit up in the air. But we will still talk about it. But what we will do is we'll talk about that rescheduled game, which was Napoli versus Rangers. Sorry, Rangers versus Napoli at Ibrox. Look, a Rangers fan. I saw a Rangers fan comment earlier, and the Rangers fan said, if I was able to bring 11 Napoli players in on Limitless or a wild card, I would, was his suggestion. He thinks Rangers are on awful form. They've obviously lost back-to-back games to Celtic. They lost to Real Madrid. Ajax last week, 4-0 as well. So they've taken a couple of absolute hammerings of late. Look, I'm going to say Napoli will win this one. I think they'll win it comfortably. I'm going to go 2-0 Napoli. And I'm going to pick the Georgian player, the midfielder, Kvaratskhelia, I think is maybe how you pronounce it, or Kvaratskhelia. It's a very tough one to pronounce. But this guy looks absolutely brilliant. For those that remember Georgie Kinklatzy, I think Steve McDonald, FPLIs, if he's still in the stream, he'll know him well. He used to play for Man City back in the 90s. I think he did a spell at Derby County as well. Absolutely ridiculous player, just so good. He is the one to watch, and he's the one to keep your eyes on for this game. So I'm going to back 2-0 to Napoli. How much of us has come in and said 3-0 to Napoli. So onto a similar sort of thought process there. So that's Rangers versus Napoli. Let's go to the next fixture. Let's go with Shakhtar versus Celtic. So Shakhtar Celtic. Oh, you know what? I think Shakhtar are going to win this one. They obviously won last week. Confidence is high. Celtic play good football. Obviously, they got a pretty decent team, but I just think the step up from the SPL to the Champions League is absolutely massive. So I'm going to say Shakhtar to win this one, 3-1. I've picked Shavid as my player. He got 17 points in game week 1 or match day 1. He got a goal on the weekend for Shakhtar as well. He's a midfielder in the game, so he's one to really keep your eyes on. This is a good fixture for Shakhtar. Look, they're at home, but by them being at home, that means they're playing their games in Poland because obviously they can't play in Ukraine at the moment, so it's all being played in Poland. So that's just something to be mindful of, that it isn't technically a home game, even though it is a home game. Quentin's come in. He said Celtic 2 Ange Postecoglou masterclass is what he means. 1. So yeah, he is back in Celtic for the win. I'll stick with Shakhtar, and I think Shaved from Shakhtar is the one to watch from this one. So we'll go into the we'll do Chelsea Salzburg. Look, we don't know if the game's definitely going to go ahead, but we will do it. So I'm going to say Chelsea to win this one. I think Graham Potter's first game, I think they'll edge it 2-0. And I think if it does go ahead, Reece James is the one to own because he's had a rest. Chelsea didn't play on the weekend, and we all know when James has a nice rest and he returns, he always has a great game. So I think Reece James is the one if you're going to pick someone from this match. So that's my pick from Chelsea Salzburg. Let's go on to we'll do Milan Zagreb because I actually did miss that game. Just before I do, I'll just bring up Quinton's comment. He did say 2-0 and Sterling will put on a clinic. So if anyone wants Raheem Sterling, there you go. We've got a bit of confidence in Raheem Sterling. Let's do Milan versus Dynamo Zagreb. I did miss that one. 1-1 last week for Milan, 1-0 win for Zagreb against Chelsea. I'm going to pick Salamakers, who is the midfielder from Milan. Scored in the opening match week last week. He's low owned. He's cheap. It's a good fixture for Milan on paper. So I'd be looking at Salamakers as your player for this one. I know there's Leo, the forward as well for AC Milan, but I think we're absolutely stacked with forwards this week. So I'm going to go with the Milan midfielder. And I think Milan will win that one by 2-0. Quinton's coming in the comments with Milan 3-1. So he's confident of a Milan win. So let's go on to the last few fixtures. Let's get those in. So we've also got let's do Real Madrid Leipzig. You know what? I think Madrid will win this one. Leipzig got absolutely hammered last week, 4-1. So I'm going to back Real Madrid to win this with a clean sheet as well. I will back them to win 3-0. And I'm going to say Vinicius Jr. as my player to watch. No Benzema. I think this will be a huge game for Vinicius. Also liking the looks of Eden Hazard in this one. Scored on the weekend for Madrid. He got a goal and assist against Celtic last week. But I'll back Vinicius as the man to pick for this game. So I'm going to go Real Madrid to win. We've had a comment from Quinton in the comments. He thinks Leipzig will upset and win 2-1. So, yeah, that would be huge. That would be huge if that was to happen. But he is backing an upset. So, big call from Quinton there. Let's go on to Manchester City versus Dortmund. So, this game's all about Erling Haaland against his old club. And you just know he's going to score. He's probably not just going to score one. He'll probably score 2 or maybe 3. I think City will win this. Again, with Dortmund, similar to Ajax, they play football, they attack, they leave spaces at the back. I can see Dortmund winning this game. I can see City winning this game with goals from both. So I'm going to go with a 4-2 to Man City. And Haaland as my must-have sort of player from this game. I think there's a number of good players to have in this game. Obviously, the likes of Royce, good player to have. Even Guerrero, who scored last week for Dortmund, he's still going to be attacking. So they're still good picks. City got plenty of good picks, but I think Haaland is the one. Cancelo as well has got potential. There's a couple of other players as well. One of them I'm going to mention as one of my differentials, so I won't speak about him just yet. Actually, sorry, he's on one of them. Foden, who's one of my differentials this week. He's on my Twitter thread. So if you're not seeing my Twitter thread, head on to my Twitter FPLMattDay, and I've done a bunch of other differentials that aren't on the podcast this week because I only sort of pick 3 to 4 differentials on the pod. So Phil Foden's another one to look out for, and I think De Bruyne is a really good pick for this week as well. Quinton's gone 2-1 to City. Brandt is a good pick. Julian Brandt, 4 shots, 2 chances created, 2 big chances created, 1 assist and 82 touches. So that's one to look out for from a Dortmund perspective. I'm going to back 4-2 to City. I think they will win that game, and Haaland is my player. Let's go on to Copenhagen versus Seville. Copenhagen obviously losing last week to Dortmund. So I think Seville, they won on the weekend. It was their first win of the season. They've been on a really, really horrible run of form. But I'm going to back them to win this one. I think they'll get the job done. 2-1 in Copenhagen. Eric Lamela scored on the weekend for Seville. He also got sent off, which means he will play in this game because he's banned for La Liga. So I'll pick him as my player. Seems to get on the score sheet every time he plays for Seville. So I'll pick him as my player to watch. I think Seville will win this game 2-1. So let's end the fixtures with the last game, which is Maccabi Haifa in Israel. So for those that don't know, Maccabi Haifa are an Israeli team that are allowed to play in the European Champions League. UEFA allowed them to play in it because of the conflict with the war in the Middle East. They aren't able to play in the Asian Champions League, so UEFA kindly let them play in the European Champions League. So Paris have to travel to Israel for this, because I believe they still play their games in Israel. So they do travel to a different continent for this game. I'll still back Paris, though. I think Paris will win. I will go with... I'll go with 3-0. I'll go with 3-0 to Paris. Plenty of good players to pick from. Neymar's on fire this season. Messi's looking good again. Hakimi at fullback, really good pick. But I'm going to go with Mbappe as a player to have, because you get him in, scored 2 last week. He's going to be very highly owned, and he's going to be a captain pick. For most managers, I think on that final night of games. A couple of other predictions. We've had Bandar's come in here. Welcome to the stream. And thanks for the comment. He said 3-0 to Paris. So he thinks Paris will win 3-0 as well. And then Quinton Dunn has come in and he said PSG for Neymar double, which the form Neymar's on, it wouldn't put it past me if he does that. He is on absolute fire this season. So he's gone 4-0. So that's the wrap up of all of the fixtures. Sorry, we've actually missed Juve versus Benfica. So let's do Juve versus Benfica. We don't want to miss. That fixture. So let's get that one up. So we've got Juve versus Benfica in Italy. Juve losing to Paris last week, so they want to get off to a good start at home and get 3 points. Tough game. Benfica have got a good squad. They've got lots of good players. Otamendi still does a good job for them. Rafael up front. There's Grimaldo, who's really good at fullback. So this is going to be a really interesting game. Juve aren't quite the Juve that we're used to seeing. I'm going to go 1-1. But I'm still going to back Vlahovic as the pick. The Juve striker hasn't been on good form for a while, but I think this is a good fixture for him to get his goal and break his duck. So I'm going to go 1-1. I think he'll score, and I think he is the player to pick. Quinton Dunn's come in and said Benfica upset 2-1. Gonçalo Ramos breakout game, and he just said Benfica as his team. So that's all of the fixtures. I'll quickly do a quick recap for those that might have just come into the stream. So we went through each game. Sporting Spurs, Harry Kane is the pick. Pilsen Inter Milan, Martinez is the pick. Rangers versus Napoli. Kvaratskhelia, Shelia, the Georgian wizard for Napoli is the pick. Porto versus Bruges, Pepe from Porto is the pick. De Paul is the pick from Leverkusen versus Atletico, the Argentinian midfielder for Atletico Madrid. Bayern versus Barca, Leroy Sané from Bayern is the pick. Marseille versus Frankfurt, we've gone with Klaus, the Marseille fullback. Liverpool versus Ajax, we've gone with Luis Diaz. Milan versus Zagreb, Salamakers from Milan, the midfielder. Shakhtar versus Celtic, we've gone with Shaved as the pick. Chelsea, Salzburg, Reece James. Man City, Dortmund, Haaland. Real Madrid, Leipzig, Vinicius. Juventus, Benfica, Vlahovic. Copenhagen versus Seville, Lamela. And Maccabi Haifa versus PSG, we've gone with Kylian Mbappe. So that is the fixtures. So I'm just going to stop sharing that screen. And then what we'll do now is we will go through the best captains for each night. So let's do night one. So night one, I'm going to go with Harry Kane or Lautaro Martinez from Inter. I think either one's a good pick. You'd probably back Lautaro as having the easier fixture. So I would say that's my 2 picks for night one. I think either one of them is a good captain to have. Night 2, I will go with Haaland and Mbappe. So if Kane or Lautaro fails, you've got a great backup option with Mbappe or Haaland, both goal scorers. Both have got good fixtures, and both are playing for a team in form. So that's my captain rotation for night 1 and night 2. I've also got a curveball for night 1 and a curveball for night 2. So my curveball captain for night 1 is Richarlison. Scored 2 on his debut last week in the Champions League. I think he will retain his place. Can't drop him with the form he's on. So he's my curveball for night 1. And then Vinicius Jr. for Real Madrid against Leipzig at home is my curveball for night 2. So let's go on to some differentials. So like I mentioned earlier, I've got some differentials on my Twitter page, which is FPLMattDay. There's a bunch of differentials on that thread, so go check it out. Just give it a like, a retweet, and give it a comment. Post your team on there as well. These are some differentials that are on that thread as well. So I've got Brozovic from Inter Milan against Pilsen at 4% owned, the midfielder. Denzel Dumfries, only 2% owned, fullback for Inter Milan. Really good attacking pick away at Pilsen. Pau Lopez at 1% owned, Marseille versus Frankfurt. I think Marseille will keep a clean sheet. He's their keeper, so he could be a banker for a clean sheet, maybe some save points as well. Low owned. And then I've gone with Shived, who I mentioned before, from Shakhtar, 5% owned. He's got Celtic, home fixture, but like I mentioned earlier, the home fixture is being played in Poland. But he's got 3 goals in his last 2 games for Shakhtar. That includes a 17-point haul last week in the Champions League. So I think he's a really good pick. He's a midfielder, and he's only 5% owned. Just going back to the captains, Quinton's come and said Son looks primed for a captain shout. Yeah, it's a tough one with Son. Obviously, like watching all the Spurs games this season, being a Spurs fan, it's amazing to think Son's not got off the mark. And there's been a couple of games where he's just come so close. He's hit the bar, or he's hit the post, or he's just dragged his shot wide. But he's also had a couple of other games where he's been a little bit anonymous. And I think now the luxury for Tottenham is Richarlison's there and he's ready and he's waiting. And if Son isn't having a good game, Richarlison's there to come off the bench or take his place, or Kulusevski on the bench to come on. So, yeah, look, I think this could be a good game for Son to break his duck. Whether or not he gets a full game or if he even starts, it's a bit uncertain. Richarlison was so good last week, and then Kulusevski changed the game when he come off the bench. So, it's I would really like him to get off the mark though. So hopefully this is the game that he does. So that's the differentials. I've just seen a few more people have entered the stream. So if you are new to the stream, if you just want to get your questions into the Q&A, that would be much appreciated. Get your questions in because we're about to go into the Q&A time because we've had a couple of questions. Just before we do, I will just quickly bring up the mini league code. So if you're not in the mini league and you want to join the Champions League mini league that I've got, the mini league code is 88K7YC9S09. So come and join. I think we've got about 180 people in there at the moment, and the league's just mega competitive. I think the person who's number 1 at the moment's very highly ranked. I think they're like top 100 in the world. So if you can come in and beat that, come in and join the league. And even if your team's not doing so well, or you're just playing for fun, come and join anyway, because it's great to have everyone involved in the mini league. So before we move on to the Q&A, let's quickly talk. So I've had some questions on the Limitless tonight. So the topic for the video was, is it time for Limitless? And I'm going to say yes. And I'll tell you why I think it's time for Limitless. Game week 3 and 4, there's really, really good fixtures for Spurs, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, even Real Madrid have good fixtures. And I think if you can wildcard in game week 3 to have a team ready for game week 3 and 4, and you can maximize those points, great. Then Limitless, game week 2 or match week 2, utilize all of the players for match week 2 as well. And then I guess with match weeks 5 and 6, it's always so up and down because some teams are qualified and some teams haven't. So, there's only so much you can do if you're using a chip in match week 5 and 6. Whereas match week 2, 3 and 4, you can really maximize all of the points, all of the players, all of the fixtures. And I think if you Limitless for match week 2, you can take advantage of, the good fixtures we've got in this round as well from some differential players that we've obviously already mentioned. And then if you wildcard in 3 and 4, you can wildcard in some of the bigger players from Bayern Munich, from Man City, from Real Madrid. And you can have a team ready for match week 3 and 4 with all of those players from those teams. So that's how I'm going to play it. So I think, yes, the answer is it is time for Limitless. Great time to use it in match week 2. Look, there's no right or wrong answer. If you want to use it in match week 3, 4, 5, 6, then, go for it. For me, I think this is the best time to play it. I've seen some people talk about a wild card in match week 2, and then a Limitless in match week 3, and then the wild card to be prepared for match week 2 and 4. The only reason I don't like that as much is because injuries, suspensions, unknown circumstances that can happen from game week 2 to game week 4, where the wild card you pick now might be completely different by the time we get to match week 4. So that's the only sort of concern I have with that, which is why I prefer the Limitless for this round. So we don't have a huge amount of Q&A. So if you are new to the stream and you're watching now, get a couple of questions in because we're only going to be streaming for a few more minutes. I'm going to get the questions that we've had from the stream tonight. So thanks for those that tuned in. So we did have an early question from FPL Eyes. Stephen McDonald, explain Limitless for a simpleton like me, please. So basically, it's like the free hit in FPL, where you can have 3 players from each side, except there's no budget. So you can pick 3 players from Man City, 3 players from Bayern, 3 players from Real Madrid, 2 from Paris, and there is no budget. So it's basically a free-for-all, or as Quinton Dunn calls it, pick any player you want with no salary cap. So, it's a really, really good chip, and it's so powerful as well. And I think it's a really good addition. It's something that the Fantasy Premier League could really use with refreshing their chips and bringing something like Limitless in, because it's if you're going to have chips, at least make them fun. Some of the other questions we've had, we had this one which we did answer earlier. What do we think the Bayern Munich Barcelona score is going to be? The general consensus was 2-2. Let's see if we've got any other questions. Otherwise, we will wrap up the podcast. If you've got any now, I've seen we've got some watchers. If you're one of those watchers, please get a question in, as I would like to answer in the next couple of minutes, because deadline, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, deadline is 4:45 p.m. UK time on Tuesday night, 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Australia, Wednesday morning. Look, you can always ask me questions on the Twitter thread, but it's always great to get some questions in now whilst we're live on the stream. We do have a question from Quinton Dunn. Anyway, Limitless question: who is your front 3? Haaland, Mbappe, and Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. That is my front 3 on Limitless. So many good options, but that would be my front 3 if you're playing a Limitless chip this week. Actually, you know what? Now I'm saying that, I can't get my man Harry Kane in, can I? You know what? That would be it's probably going to have to come down to loyalty for me. If I was going to do that, it's probably going to have to be, for me, it's probably going to have to be Mbappe, Kane, and Haaland as my 3, and I'd end up missing out on Martinez. So unless it's a tough one, that, right? That could come down to the wire. I'd probably still say Martinez, Haaland, and Mbappe is a strong front 3 for a Limitless chip. Limitless question: what formation are you going for? I'm looking at a 3-4-3. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think definitely 3 up front. I'd say I like the 3 up front. I also like the 5 in midfield. That's the thing, because there's a lot of midfielders getting points. You got the ball recoveries now. It is a tough one. But I think I'll back the 3-4-3. I'll back the 3-4-3 as well, because I think you're chasing goals. You've got so many good goal scorers, so many good strikers. in the game for this match week. So yeah, I think 3-4-3 is a good one on a limitless. And like I said, plenty of good strikers this week to pick from. Benzema is obviously not one of them because he's injured. So no Benzema this week. So you got the likes of Kane, Haaland, Mbappe, Neymar, Martinez. We've also got who else did we mention? Is it Leo from AC Milan, the forward? There's just plenty of players to pick from this week, but not Benzema. So if you're not on a limitless, you're not on a wild card, and you've still got Benzema from match week 1, get rid of him because he's not fit to play. We've also got Neymar as well to look at. Even Lionel Messi. We've not even spoke about Lionel Messi on this podcast yet, which is just incredible. I know he's not showing huge goal scoring form, but he loves the Champions League. He does like a haul every now and then in the group stages, even at PSG. Limitless question: best goalkeeper option. I like Pau Lopez from Marseille. I think he's got a really good home fixture for night 1, and then night 2, I like Donnarumma from PSG. I think he's really good. I think you can do Donnarumma on a limitless, and then you could probably go Mbappe and maybe Hakimi on a limitless as well. So I really like Donnarumma. We had a question from Banda. Would you go for all premiums if you're limitless, or would you choose some cheap differentials? No, I think you've got to mix it up. You've got to play the fixtures, but you've also got to have the right premium. So by the right premiums, Mbappe, Haaland, De Bruyne, Donnarumma, I think someone like Cancelo or Hakimi. And then outside of that, there's plenty of other players that you can put in there that are differential. Brozovic, Martinez, Dumfries. So you've got lots of options there. So I would mix it up. I'd probably go, 4 to 6 premiums because the premiums are on form as well in UCL. It's not like the premiums in Fantasy Premier League where it's quite hit and miss at the moment. There's a lot of premiums on absolute fire in the UCL. Mbappe, Neymar's looking good for PSG. Haaland's, looking brilliant. So there's plenty to pick from. Lewandowski, not mentioned him enough tonight. Got a hat-trick last week. He's returning to Bayern. Might score. I know not a lot of people aren't as keen on him this week, but it's hard to rule out Robert Lewandowski. So that is all the questions that we've had. So if anyone who's watching now has any extra questions, get them in the comments in the next sort of 10 seconds. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, we'll wrap up the pod there. I'll quickly bring up the mini league code again as well, just before we end. So if you do want to join the mini league, the code is 88K7YC9S09. Come and join it. And if there's no other questions, we'll give it another 5 or 10 seconds just to see if any more come in. It doesn't look like we're going to get any more questions for match week 2 Champions League. So that's that. Good luck everyone for match week 2. We have just had a quick comment that has come in actually, so I'll just bring that up from Banda. Thanks so much for the great work. Thanks for tuning in, mate. Really, really appreciate the support, and thanks for everyone that's come and watched this podcast live. Really appreciate it. If you haven't watched this live and you are watching this on the pre-record, still get your questions in the comments because I will be answering them on YouTube. I've also got a Twitter thread, so you can come follow me, FPLMattDay. Give the video a like, give me a subscribe if you are new around here, and good luck everyone for match week 2. Really looking forward to it. Good luck if you are also on a limitless. Like I said, this is a really good time to play limitless, so I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's teams, and I will leave it there. So I'll see you at the end of the week. For everyone that tunes in regularly, we will have the Fantasy Premier League deadline stream and potentially a watch along this week. All depends if the Premier League is on, but this is the Champions League, so I will leave it at that, and good luck everyone for match week 2.